Okay, welcome to my lesson for my grade 5 students on still life, soft pastel sketching. This lesson focuses on the elements of art of value and shape. And I stress to my students the importance of value. Where is the light? Where is the dark hitting? Where are the shadows? So we've got the shadows. So we look at value during this unit. The other thing is shape. In order to do a still life, the shape of the items is very important so that we know what we're looking at when you're finished. And during this lesson, my students are going to focus on two techniques. We're going to work on blending the soft pastels, as well as layering colors. Layering colors is important because we know when we're looking at fruit, for example, I ask my students what color is an apple, and they often will say, oh, red. But then we look very carefully at an apple, and we observe it, and we look, and we're like, oh, it's not just red. We've got red, different shades of red. We've got yellows. We've got some greens, sometimes some brown spots. So we have all kinds of colors, and it's the same when we're looking with our orange as well. And orange is not just orange. An orange will have yellows, greens running through it. And of course the same with the lemon. Look at the green in this lemon here. And of course we think of yellow as well. So I get my students to think about what colors they're actually seeing in the fruit. We observe very carefully, and then we're ready to get started. So I'm going to take you through the observation that I would have my students look at so that they know what they're going to do when they're going to go to their seat. So we're going to use soft pastels for this lesson. My students have a box like this at their table so they can have a wide selection. And to start off with, they're going to put a background color on it, and the rule for this is it has to be a light color. So I'm going to start with a yellow, and we're going to put our background color on, and we're simply going to go from top to bottom, and we're going to make sure that we cover the whole page, and we're going to go in one direction, and we're just putting a base or a background color on our page. Once we've got that done, my students should be very familiar with the blending technique. We're going to take two fingers, and we're going to just soften those soft pastels. And we're going to blend our pastels into our page just with our fingers like this. Okay? All right. Once we have our background color, we have our still life set up at our table. Because my students have 40 minutes in each class, they don't have time to start and finish. So what I have them do is I have them bring their iPads with them to class, and they have their still life set up at the table, and they take a photo on their iPad of the still life. So this is what I'm going to be working from today. This is what I can see and what my students will see. They've got some fruit in the foreground and a plant set up in the background. We need to make sure we've got the light. We can see where the light is hitting the fruit, and we can see where the shadows are underneath. So this is what I'm going to be working from, and I would have my students working from something similar. Okay, so we've got that. So I tell my students to start with the items in the foreground. So we're going to start with the apple, and I'm going to look at the apple in my picture, and I'm going to start and I'm going to sketch in the shape of my apple. And as I said to my students, the shape is important. If you don't have the shape right, then we don't know what we're looking at. And we're not using a pencil to sketch in. We are simply going to use our pastels, so they have to sketch lightly. They've got to be careful, and my students haven't had any problem doing this. I'm going to do my basic shapes first. I'm going to get my apple shape, and then my orange is lying a little bit on its side. So I'm going to put my orange shape in here. And I just keep going until I'm happy with it. It's lying up like that. Okay. Once I have that, what I'm going to do now is put on a base color for my fruit. And I'm going to go in, and my base color of my orange is orange. So I'm going to add that in here. And I've got that. Now, what I'm going to do is use my one finger, and I'm going to soften it and blend it. And my students know from our charcoal unit, we're just going to keep blending. Now, that's my base layer, but I said that our fruit has different shades, different colors. I'm going to get another lighter color orange in here, and I'm going to add that and I'm layering now. So I'm layering my pastels, and I'm going to blend that again. Okay, I'm liking the way that looks. If I look at my picture, I can also see that right here is my stem for my orange. I'm going to put the green there, and I'm going to add a little brown spot where there's a little bit where it was attached. Now, we're going to use white to add the light on. So we're simply going to look at our picture, and we're going to see where the light is hitting our orange, and we're going to soften that up, and we're going to add that in there. Good. Okay. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for our apple. We're going to go and we're going to add in our base color and get that in here first. And the yellow background is actually a good background if you're doing apples and oranges, because the yellow actually comes through in a lot of the fruit there. And I'm going to soften up. But you can have any light color background. It doesn't have to be yellow. It can be any color. Now I'm looking at my apple, and I know it's darker in some areas. So I'm going to go and I'm going to darken up some of these areas where there's more. Okay, now I'm also going to get some yellow, and I'm going to put some yellow coming through into my apple as well. This is a little bit of a yellowy orange. I think I'm going to go with a lighter one as well. Get some light yellow in there, and I'm going to blend that in, and we're layering, and then we're going to blend it. Okay, also I know on my apple it's a little bit of a green spot. That's looking like a tomato, but that's okay. And there's a little bit of my brown spot, and I'll get my stem coming up. All right, once again I'm going to grab my white. I'm going to add where the light is coming through. So the light is hitting, and I'm just going to blend that light spots in there. Okay, so now we're working on that. I'm happy with my fruit. I'm going to very quickly show you that we then I'm going to use any color for my plant at the back for the pot. Doesn't have to be the exact color that we see. I'm going to add that on. And then I would shade that in and color it, and if my students want to add a design to it, they can. I also told my students it's interesting, plants are very similar to the fruit. They're not simply green. They're going to be different shades. And if you look carefully, often your plants will have a hint of yellow in there as well. So we'll do some shading on our plants and our leaves. We'll get some yellow in there. We'll get some darker shades in there. And a little bit of yellow, and we'll do some blending. And I would continue working on the leaves as well. So you can see that once I'm finished everything, the very last step is I need to look at my photo again, and I need to think, okay, where are the shadows? All the shadows are in here, and I can use a black if I want to do the shadows black, or just a darker. I'm just going to do a little bit of a gray and add that in here as my final touch, so that my students are thinking about where is the light, where is the dark, and we're focusing on value. And as simple as that, I've modeled for my students now what I want them to go to their desk and I want them to do. Okay, so I hope your students have fun with that, working with chalk pastel, focusing on the element of value and shape, and working on two techniques, blending and layering. Great, thank you.